I just told him what happened.
Hello, madam, is it you?
I gave him the money.
Look, the money's there, look.
I've just come out of the bloody hospital and I've tried to explain to him I need to go. He's been
I think my colleagues are with him, we'll see what's going to happen.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
It's all on video as well.
Excuse me, sir. The money's there.
You fell under. Listen. There's a camera there. The woman's got on the bus. The camera's watching her. I goes to her. I don't carry change. TFL don't give us change, yeah. So you need to get change across the road. Obviously my firm will guarantee that. Yeah. He's come along. He's interfering with my conversation like he knows the procedure. Because I've been trained as a bus driver. I know how to tell passengers if you haven't got change.
So, Officer, why do you feel the need to film it anyway?
I haven't trouble with it. He's filming me. He should be filming me.
I didn't actually interfere. Yeah. The lady wanted change, and I had some change, so I came down to give her change.
Hello, YouTube. I wonder if anybody remembers this tragic murder here of woman police constable Nisha Patel Nasri. She had volunteered to be a special constable in the Metropolitan Police Service and was tragically stabbed to death at her home in Wembley, London on the 11th of May 2006. It's obviously the murder of a woman police officer, or any police officer, gets a lot of media attention. And it was on Crime Watch did a number of programmes on this murder, and it seemed at the start of it for quite a while that the police were absolutely lost. They didn't have a single clue, nowhere to go with this case at all. No suspects, no evidence, nothing. But then they finally got a breakthrough. They found the murder weapon in a drain in a high street, not too far away from the murder scene. So they went round looking for if it was covered by CCTV footage, and luckily for them there was a very short clip filmed from a shop on the night of the murder of a car pulling up by the drain. The passenger door opened for a few seconds, the passenger door shut, and then the car drove away again. They didn't get a full licence plate, but there were a couple of features on the car that made it slightly distinctive. And the police managed to trace down that car and found that it belonged to a man called Tony Emmanuel, who is described as a nightclub bouncer and nightclub promoter. And he was arrested for her murder. And then stemming from the arrest of Tony Emmanuel, the police made further arrests of 3 other men, who were Nisha Patel Nasri's husband, Fadi Nasri, a man described as a heroin dealer, Roger Leslie, and Jason Jones, who's described as a nightclub bouncer. The way the media reported the way things happened and the version of events that came out at the end of the trial were that Fadi Nasri, Nisha Patel Nasri's husband, had hired Roger Leslie to do a contract killing on his wife. Roger Leslie then dragged in Jason Jones and Tony Emmanuel. According to reports, the only man out of the 4 who could be put at the scene of the murder on that night was Tony Emmanuel. They'd identified his car, but also they traced his mobile phone to being very close to Nisha Patel Nasri's home on the night of the murder. The other 3 men couldn't be placed at the scene at all. Now this is where I struggle, you see, because out of the 4, the only man who could actually be placed at the scene, the man who was arrested first by police, was Tony Emmanuel. And yet Tony Emmanuel was the only one out of the 4 to be found not guilty. I know, can you believe that? I can't. And now, the reason Tony Emmanuel was found not guilty was his defence was he stated that he believed he'd been hired by Roger Leslie to drive Jason Jones to a drug deal, not a murder. Tony Emmanuel didn't know anything about a murder at all, and was found not guilty. I'm not going to, go into hours of dissecting the case and all the little minutiae in it. But according to the reports, the murder weapon came from inside the house of WPC Nisha Patel Nasri. Jason Jones, the murderer, alleged murderer, didn't take his own murder weapon with him. Can't get me head around that. If somebody contracts you to carry out a murder and a killing, and you're a crook of some kind, I think you'd probably take along your own murder weapon, not just sort of turn up on the off chance that you'd find something suitable when you got there. So that throws that into doubt for me. And also, all the reports stated that there was a river of blood outside of her house, all over the drive, running so much blood that it ran down across the pavement like a river. That's a lot of blood, the way they described it. So you would think that anybody who'd carried out that murder would be covered in blood, or at least covered in some blood, right? And what we're led to believe is that Tony Emmanuel drove Jason Jones there without a murder weapon, thinking he was going to a drug deal. He waited round the corner in his car. Jason Jones got out without a murder weapon, walked down to WPC Nisha Patel Nasri's house. He stabbed Nisha Patel Nasri to death with her own knife. Took the knife with him back to Tony Emmanuel's car. Got in the car. Tony Emmanuel drove away. Then stopped en route so Jason Jones could drop the knife down a drain. And then they drove off again. So Tony Emmanuel didn't notice Jason Jones was covered in blood. Tony Emmanuel didn't know why he had to pull the car over at a drain, and what Jason Jones was doing when he opened the door for a few seconds. And Tony Emmanuel didn't know that a murder had happened the next day when he saw the news. Didn't have to clean his car out. Clean any blood, check it if there was any blood around in his car or anything like that. Very bizarre. And also you would think that Tony Emmanuel might be a bit annoyed, he's been hired by Roger Leslie to drive somebody to a drug deal, and then the next day he finds out that he's driven somebody to a murder. You'd be quite annoyed about being sucked in and entrapped and duped like that, wouldn't you? Yeah, I would be. Very annoyed, very angry. Anyway, the kind of weird thing for me, and I do keep saying it, is my life is genuinely weird. As you all know, in 2011, when the Occupy St Paul's protest was going on, I went down there to check it out, and I met a number of funny characters down there, and a lot of undercover police being slipped into the protest movement as undercover protesters. I know I'm crazy, that stuff doesn't really happen. So yeah, I was directed to go and check out, commonly known as Dom, who was spouting the freeman on the land nonsense, by somebody who very much looked like an undercover police officer, and sort of turned up, directed me to commonly known as Dom when he was there giving a speech, and then disappeared again. Not suspicious at all. So I'm like, all right, the police want me to go and check out commonly known as Dom for some reason. Let's go and check him out. And he was talking about all the free man on the land, I don't consent. Straw man, jiggery pokery. And yeah, another person that I met there, of course, was Bill Maloney, who turned up just after the Jimmy Savile news broke. Good timing for you, eh? Anyway, the police seemed very keen, and a lot of people seemed very keen to get me to believe into the free man on the land thing. And I am a bit of a bastard. If I think somebody's trying to suck me into something or take me for a mug, I might pretend that I don't know what's going on and I'll just go along with it. But the free man on the land thing does sound quite interesting when you first hear about it, and you go, oh, that's quite interesting. And I'm a bit obsessive. So, and I like getting to the bottom of things. So I did a lot of reading on it. I even had my own Black's Law Dictionary, you know, the law dictionary they all talk about, but none of them have actually got. I had my own Black's Law Dictionary. And all the stuff they were saying that was in Black's Law Dictionary, I was looking through Black's Law Dictionary and it wasn't actually in there. So I started holding these people to account about it. And then I thought, this is bullshit. They're slipping undercover police officers into the protest movement at Occupy St Paul's. They seem to be getting people to spread this free man on the land, I don't consent nonsense. What's going on here? So sometimes I play people at their own game, you know. So when I encountered police officers, I started using their own sort of that free man on the land nonsense. The police officers, just saying, you know, if they fall for it or if they go along with it, seeing what their reactions were. Right, I found it fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I'm using this stuff and I don't believe in it at all. And people kept coming up, I kept meeting people that were trying to get me deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And I'm like, this is really weird. Yeah, and I'm not falling for it at all. And then, when I was going to a mental health appointment at Unity House, where they were doing this weird diagnosing about am I a psychopath or am I not a psychopath, I got on a 267 bus to Homerton Hospital from outside my house, and we only went one stop down the road, and this very pale young girl, looking quite fragile and weak, in a sort of, she had a coat on but she had a hospital gown underneath it. She only had a £5 note, and the driver told her, I haven't got any change, you'll have to get some change and get another bus. And she said, no, honestly, please, I need to get back to hospital. And then she was quite desperate, you know, and begged the bus if anybody had any change, could they change her money so she could get back to hospital. So being the good Samaritan that I occasionally am, although of course I'm always looking to take advantage of those situations. That's sarcasm, by the way. I had a pocket full of change, and so I started walking down the bus, put my hand in my pocket, started getting some change out. But as I got down to the driver's door, he turned his engine off and he said, right, if you're not getting off my bus, I'm not moving. So I said to him, oh, come on, mate, be reasonable. What's going on? We've got some change here, right? Let's just carry on. And then he started an argument with me, just quite out of the... He was totally unreasonable, right? So... I'm all right, you know, I'm quite keen to stick up for other people's rights. Not that many people stick up for mine. But it don't stop me sticking up for other people's. So I tried to sort of negotiate with him, and I was trying to have a bit of friendly banter with him, but he was just... It didn't make any sense, what he was doing, and I thought, oh, maybe he's just some arsehole bus driver who just wants to take it out on some poor young girl trying to get back to hospital after trying to commit suicide. Nice man. So I ended up having a bit of a row with him, only a verbal one, right? And then he opened his metal cab door and smashed it into me while we were talking and nearly knocked me over. So I got my camera out of my bag and started filming him. Didn't know who he was. So then he called the police. They turned up. He went and had a word with one on his own, and another one had a word with me. And then they kept making this big deal out of it about why I was filming and all that. And I said, oh, I'm just filming for my own safety, you know. And this records audio, whereas the bus camera doesn't. Because this bus driver had threatened me a couple of times, and the bus cameras ain't picking that up. So, but they kept making points about filming. And as you know, this is a recurring theme with me. I get the police going to my doctor, telling them I might film them covertly and stuff like that, right? They do it all the time. They go around my local community telling people I'm filming everybody, you know, when I'm not. So of course there is the other thing, you know, where people have been creating really weird street theatre in my life and doing lots of really weird corruption in my life. And so I started taking a filming things for evidence, because I think I knew at one point in my life I'd be telling people about this stuff, and without any film footage or anything like that, it just sounds like a lot of nonsense, doesn't it? Nobody's going to believe it, right? But anyway, I had my appointment at the mental health place and then went home. I watched the footage again and I'm like, this is weird. So I'd never put a video on YouTube before, so I thought, I should put this on YouTube. So I did. It started getting hundreds and hundreds of views straight away. Not like my videos now, like, you know, because we've only got police watching my videos now. And then people were making all these comments underneath the video, right? And then somebody started saying to me, do you know who that is, mate? Do you know who it is? I'm like, no. And they told me who it was. Tony Emmanuel, the bloke who drove the murderer to and from the murder of this woman police officer. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Somebody like that driving a London bus. Of course, he's not an innocent. He's got a very, very long criminal record, right? Which would prevent him from driving a London bus. Trust me, I know I've got a long criminal record and they'd never let me drive a London bus, so there you go. And then the police found out and they started threatening me. They started calling me and having these long conversations and threatening me to take this footage down. And I thought, I've broken no laws here. And then I'm wondering also why they're so keen, why they're going to such lengths in threatening me to take this video off YouTube. Of course, once it's out there, it's too late anyway. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking it down. Give me a good reason why I should take it down. And then I had proper threats. They were going to get me off the internet, force me off the internet. They were going to screw with my life. I've had threats from police before, but they were pretty determined that for some reason or other I shouldn't have this footage on the internet. So anyway, it's just another one of those weird events in my life, you know, where I end up getting put with somebody. You know, Borough Commander Andrew Tarrant, head of the Diplomatic Protection Branch, senior officer on the night the pleb gate thing happened, head of CO19, Lady Emma Herbert, daughter of the Earl of Pembroke, you know, who made a film with Coustark when I was raped a couple of doors down from Coustark. And the thing is, I talked about all these things before they happened, you know, before I met Lady Emma Herbert. It's not like I've made it up after the event. Anyway, I didn't believe it was just a chance encounter. I know that sounds quite weird, but I've had a lot of very, very weird stuff in my life, including being set up for firearms and kidnap offences. Yeah. So I didn't believe it at all. I tried to get a solicitor as well, to get the police to explain themselves about why they were threatening me so much. Couldn't get a solicitor, couldn't get any legal help at all. So there I go, I decide to play people at their own game. So I contacted the bus company and I said I was assaulted by this bus driver who threatened me, and it turns out he's been involved in the murder of a woman police constable and he's got a long criminal history. And I'm quite worried about it. So then I looked up some tort law, you know, that sort of law that the freeman on the land people like to use. And I told them that I wanted to put in a claim for damages, you know, like emotional distress and all this sort of thing. Complete rubbish, really. You know, they should have just said, piss off, mate. Right. But no, they paid me money. Yeah, they paid me money based on these torts that I fired at them. And then I knew for certain that this thing with Tony Emmanuel was some sort of street theatre, and I believed it was some sort of street theatre for my benefit for some reason. But then of course in the borough that I lived in, it was being policed by as a senior officer, Borough Commander Andrew Tarrant, who might easily have arranged that to happen. I know that probably sounds a bit far-fetched to you, but it's not far-fetched to me. Not in the weird stuff that happens in my life. But there you go. So the freeman thing does occasionally work. But the freeman thing was a police operation, and I've been saying that for years. And if they want you to believe that it will work, and it's real, they'll treat it like it is real, like a real thing. So here's a couple of emails that I sent to the bus company when they're talking about getting compensation. I didn't strong it with the compensation. I asked them for a couple of £100, which in itself was a bit ridiculous, really. But they coughed up the money. And I believe they only did that to make me feel like the freeman on the land thing was actually a real thing and worked. Yeah. All right, pick the bones out of that, yeah? There you go.
It's too big a coincidence not to be linked.
I just told him what happened.
Hello, madam, is it you?
I gave him the money, he wouldn't take
Look, the money's there,
I've just
look.
come out of the bloody hospital and I've tried to explain to him, I need to go. He's being
I think my colleagues are with me, we'll see what's going to happen.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
It's all on video as well.
Excuse me, sir. The money's there.
You fell under. Listen. There's a camera there. The woman's got on the bus. The camera's watching her. I goes to her. I don't carry change. TFL don't give us change, yeah? So you need to get change across the road. Obviously my firm will guarantee that.
Yeah.
He's come along, he's interfering with my conversation like he knows the procedure, because I've been trained as a bus driver. I know how to tell passengers, if you haven't got change...
So, Josser, why do you feel the need to film it anyway?
I haven't trouble
So
with it. He's filming me, he should be filming me.
I didn't actually interfere. The lady wanted change and I had some change, so I came down to give her change.